Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Sometimes we have good days where our learning goes very well. We're able to sit down with books and we can pass an hour with those books. In our eyes, that's time well spent, because we see that as learning. We see that as something useful. After all, isn't that what learners do? Sit with books to learn new words? And then there's other days when we don't do so well. We don't have the time to study a book. Before COVID, we were rushing to catch a train, coach, or to get in the car to get to work. These days, life is not quite so stressful because many of us work from home, but yet we still find it difficult to do that hour of study, which we are told helps us. There's 2 points to this. I think the first point is whether our hour of study is actually beneficial, whether that's the best way to learn a language. And the second point, of course, is where this feeling of uselessness and lack of progression comes. Let's deal with the first point first. Now, for those of you who know me, you will know that I have little faith in grammar books. They're handy references, but they will never have the last word on your learning. They will never define your English level, nor will they ever have that last sentence, that condemnation about your English. Study books are good because, of course, they allow us to see grammar written on a page, a little bit like a dictionary. But to study them every day is rather futile. A better use of your time would be to have even a 10-minute conversation with a language exchange partner who very quickly can correct you, can lead you through some different topics or subjects, or even to have a lesson with a teacher who can force you to speak. It's unclear where this idea came from, that if you buy a book, you will have English. It's something from this capitalist world we live in that somehow learning a language adds up to the amount of money we spend. So it's kind of like, I'll buy this book at £20, I'll have £20 worth of English. This book will help me speak better. The purpose of buying a book is to open your mind. What happens is, when you buy the book, your mind will be opened, ready for learning. You've taken a step, you've invested money in your learning, and as a result, that book itself doesn't have to be useful, but it just gives your mind the idea that you're open towards learning. That's the purpose. But the book itself, your expectations of it may be a little bit too high, because all it is a book of grammar. It doesn't help you to speak better. It has no other benefits other than listing bits of grammar. So if you're relying on a grammar book today, I would say try as much as you can to replace that with a time of speaking. If you're planning to do an exam, Replace the book with exam study material. These things are very basic things. We live in a world today where we are being pushed into certain mindsets which suits companies and other people who reduce our learning to a commodity. For example, English in 3 months with this book and CD. Really? A book and a CD can give you English? I don't think so. But what it can do is it can open your mind for learning. But after 3 months, I doubt very much if you'll be speaking fluently. And even if you are, I would question whether it would help you to be listening better. That's the first point. The first point is about your learning material. If you're punishing yourself, with a grammar book or a book that really doesn't do anything for your higher purpose, then it's time to let it go and to review your strategies. We all need reset points. So perhaps today is yours, especially if you're feeling somehow demotivated to continue. Language is a huge thing. You just need to know where you fit into it. First, you tap into your passion, and then you have the energy to move forward. And that's a very different thing from buying a book of grammar and forcing yourself to read it. My second point is about the lack of motivation. It seems that many of us, rather than thinking about where our joy and motivation comes from, we tend to spend a lot of time wondering, why am I not motivated to learn? What is it that's holding me back? It's like sometimes there's a glass barrier there which stops us moving forward. What is that barrier? Where does it come from? Is it just our fears and insecurities? It seems to me that especially some older people really feel this invisible wall, and it's like they come up against it and they think, I really can't do this. I really can't move forward. What is this, and where does it come from? I don't think it actually comes from anywhere. It's mostly illusionary, based upon bits of information that you might have heard on the news, along with other people's thoughts and ideas about your abilities. Let me explain. If you listen to the news every day, or if you read the news online, your mind will be filled with information about a world which is largely unsuccessful. Statements in the headlines of the last few days in the UK have included things like dementia is rising, mental health problems for all of us are going up, politicians are failing us. There's very specific reasons for these headlines. They're based upon facts, but again, these things are never going to have the last say about your English. However, when we come to learn, we have all this stuff in our minds that we've picked up. And then we also have to deal with family and friends. Once you accept all these things into your mind as being real, you're left with a feeling that you're living in a world where language learning might not be important, might not be successful, but yet on the other hand, you know you need to try. So it's kind of like someone is shooting you down even before you begin. Yesterday I went to the post office, and on my way back from the post office, I met one of my neighbors. And she immediately, rather defensively, started questioning me about another neighbor. I basically told her that I didn't know much about this other neighbor, except that maybe she was quiet and that was all. But this person I was having the conversation with painted a very detailed picture which was not factual, but was on hypotheses about what my other neighbor was like. And by the end of the conversation, I had this opinion that my other neighbor was somehow bad or evil because of some things that she had been doing. Of course, I wouldn't have that view if I hadn't met my other neighbor. But I'm telling you all of this because opinions about people can spread quicker than COVID can. And it all comes from this belief that the world is a bad place which needs to be corrected if we find fault. So, as a result of that, we often live in this world where we think our learning is bad and has to be corrected and is never going to be successful because of hidden messages that people have given us. I was telling someone the other day that I'm learning Persian, the language of Farsi, and the reply I got was, why? Why would you do that? And it's the same question I'm asked a lot by people around the world. Simply, why? With a tone which suggests that it's somehow socially unacceptable or it's a bad thing. And my reply is always the same. You ask why, but I ask why not? I have a choice. I can learn any language I want. So why would you see that as being problematic or difficult or even unusual? We all have things we do in life to make us happy, and this one is mine. And why would you want to rob me of that? So when I come to my Persian books, this voice is coming up saying, why? Because that's what I hear every day when I tell people that I'm learning Persian. So you see, my point is this, that your thoughts make the world. I didn't say that, by the way. It was originally said by the Buddha. Your thoughts create your world. So if you're accepting these thoughts from somebody else that learning is not possible, dementia is going up, you're living in a bad, bad place, then of course the end environment is going to be seen in things that you do. You'll travel to work expecting the train to be late because, after all, the world is a bad place which needs to be corrected, and it is your job to write a letter of complaint to the train company. You come to have an English lesson with that attitude, and of course you'll feel, well, mental health issues are on the rise. I don't know if I can remember anything the teacher says. And you probably won't, because you've already planted that seed in your mind, that it's not going to happen. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you say, this is going to be a bad day. Because you've said it, it probably will be, unless something extraordinary happens to break you out of it. It is true that bad thoughts travel. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it's not really about the thoughts exactly. It's more about this idea that we're living in a world which on one hand is good, but on the other hand is bad. I don't actually think there is any general power of badness out there. Some people believe that there's a good world with all of its fantastic things, and that there's a bad world with perhaps a little devil running around like a sketch from a Benny Hill TV show, waiting to prod you with a fork. I don't think it's like that at all. I think that's just something we inherited from religion. It taught us about good and bad, and we haven't yet been able to reverse that, even though religion is not part of our thing anymore. For those of you who know me, you'll know that often I refer to American culture as being a little bit superficial. They don't really care very much for the deeper things in life because it's a new country. They have no sense of history. But one thing I do like about them is their ability to move on. If something doesn't work for them, they very quickly know that they have to change their ideas and change their habits to get something done. And that isn't something you often find in British culture. Here, people say you have to be a little bit depressed to live in the UK because it's all about money. And if you don't have it, well, you're nothing. And then some people say, well, it's all about the weather. So you see, different ideas and different opinions tell us exactly who we are. So when it comes to learning, it's really, really important that you get your mindset right. Now, that doesn't mean you have to run away to a mountain and sit there for 2 weeks, but it does mean that you have to at least give some thought as to why you're feeling demotivated today. It probably has nothing to do with you. Opinions have been made for generations about capabilities based upon views and ideas of life which are much, much older than we are. But we've simply inherited those ideas, and those ideas have stopped us moving forward. So, what do we do then from a learning point of view to reverse these ideas? There's a proverb in Ireland which says, "Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are." And that means that you're largely defined by your peer group. I'm not saying you have to give up your friends, but maybe it's time to listen to that voice inside you when they start talking about how bad people are. Because the next time you open a grammar book or you have an exchange with a language exchange partner, a voice inside you will be saying, "Oh, I hope this person isn't bad." If you define people in their senses of good and bad, then of course it's going to reflect upon you. Some people say that they like to listen to the news every day because it's better than dramas. They have it in the background. Even in offices now, a 24-hour news service is often playing on TV screens. People think it's great being up to date. Is it really? Because when it comes to your learning, the next time, when it comes to your learning book, after watching TV for 7 hours a day in an office, for example, with headlines about wars, bombs, and people waiting to blow us off the planet, and of course the planet destroying itself, then you have to wonder what that does to your opinion of what you can achieve. If we are really living in the last days and the environment is about to collapse and kill us, or if a nuclear war really is about to start, why bother with learning? And this is all going around in the back of your mind. So the next time that you come to a grammar book or a language exchange partner or something, and you feel that brick wall that you can't go through, maybe it's time for you to review exactly who you're around and what you're letting into your head. Because the more violent and bad it is, the more hopeless you're going to feel in learning, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. Those of you who know me, I'm always saying, take 5 minutes a day just to quieten your mind, to sit there in silence, to clear out all of this stuff that you hear. I like to watch TV shows before I go to bed in the evening, or even a movie. But I don't think I've ever seen a movie or TV show where there hasn't been some suggestion of guns, violence, homicides, crime, because that's all that's available. Even in the most romantic comedies, there's always a moment where one of the lovers does a bad thing or tries to leave, or there's a misunderstanding and the other person is distressed or distraught for 48 hours, not being able to sleep, eat, or work. These are just a few ideas for you to work with. Learning is a much bigger thing than coming to the table. It's also about your mindsets and what you're believing about the world around you and your consciousness. That's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a bit longer than usual, but I hope this has let you see inside how the world works and also how your mind works and how the two things don't often come together, leaving you in a state of disparity and wondering what it is that you need to change going forward. And it's quite simple. Change your thoughts will change your world. That's all from me. See you. Bye.